This is booked for drama, where stories burn, hearts break, the tea is always hot and never a part 2. Today we're diving into That's Your 100th Mistress, Time to Leave You. Let's go. Chapter 1. In 5 years of our marriage, my husband, Vincent Blackthorne, had taken 99 mistresses home. At our anniversary party, he allowed the 100th one to get me drunk. I'm allergic to alcohol. I ended up in the hospital with anaphylactic shock. And still, he said to me, "Stop playing weak, Andrea. Sable's craving barbecue ribs. Drag your pathetic weak self home and make them." Then came the warehouse fire. He didn't hesitate for a second. He carried his mistress out, leaving me behind. The flames swallowed my cries for help. My right leg was permanently damaged in the fire. When I woke up in the hospital, he was pressing the doctor to graft skin on Sable's arm, which had only been scraped in the commotion. Something inside me finally died. "Vincent, I want a divorce." "Divorce? How dare you bring that up? You don't care about your brother's life anymore?" He scoffed. "Doesn't your precious little brother still need his medical treatments?" His mistress burst out laughing. She even started a betting pool in their private chat group. "Come on, place your bets. How long will Andrea last this time after filing for divorce? 1 day? Or forever?" Without missing a beat, Vincent placed his bet 1 day and threw in 10 million. I quietly bet $1 on forever. Ignoring their ridicule and sneers flooding the chat, I left the group. Then, I made a call to Vincent's greatest rival. "Damien, I'm getting a divorce. You once said you'd take me away if I asked. Does that offer still stand?" "Of course it does. Where are you? I'll come get you right now." "No rush. I've got a few loose ends to tie up. Let's meet in a month." After hanging up, I headed straight for the law office. "Mr. Welch, I need you to draft 2 agreements for me, 1 divorce agreement and 1 for the transfer of shares." Welch hesitated. "Does Mr. Blackthorne know you're divorcing him?" I touched the bandage on my arm, still seeping blood. "He will." For now, he was probably busy with Sable Frost. That afternoon, Vincent and I arrived home one after another. Noticing the cold stove, his face darkened. "Didn't I tell you Sable wants tiramisu? Why haven't you made it yet?" I ignored his accusations and calmly took my seat. His voice turned sharp. "Andrea, are you trying to piss me off? Don't push your luck, or I'll cut off my brother's medical expenses." I finished for him, my eyes cold and steady. "Go ahead." I'd heard those threats more times than I could count. For years, I'd bent over backwards to please him, all for my brother's sake. He made me watch him fawn over his lovers and clean up after their affairs. He forced me to act as a live target while his mistresses practiced shooting without protective gear. He had me drive through thunderstorms, for hours, just to deliver hot soup to some woman. But I'm still human. I've had enough of this humiliation. I pulled out the documents from my bag. 2 papers. Sign them. Vincent's face dropped. He'd never seen me like this before. He was about to read them when his phone rang. He didn't even bother to step away. He answered right in front of me. Sable's sweet voice came through. "Vincent, why aren't you back yet?" "My arm. It hurts again." Vincent softened instantly. "I'm coming, sweetheart," he said, turning to leave. I grabbed his wrist. "Sign first." Annoyed, he glared at me. "Didn't you hear her? Sable needs me. Why are you always making things harder?" With clear impatience, he snatched the pen, flipped to the last page and signed. As I stared at his rushed, scrawled signature, my chest tightened. If he'd even glanced at the document, he would have realized it was the divorce papers. But he didn't. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The chime hanging by the entryway jingled softly with his departure. I sat there for a moment, frozen. The wind chimes. It was my half-sister Isolde Layton's favorite. She and Vincent had been childhood sweethearts. But 5 years ago, she was killed in a car accident. The Layton family couldn't bear to lose their engagement ties with the Blackthornes, so they forced me into Vincent's room. I'd never forget the look in Vincent's eyes that night, pure disgust and hostility. "You think pulling a dirty stunt like this will make you Mrs. Blackthorne? Dream on. I'll never let that happen." But when the so-called scandal was exposed, my father broke down in tears and demanded Vincent take responsibility or face public disgrace. Old Mr. Blackthorne couldn't risk the family's reputation. So, they made us marry. I knew Vincent didn't love me. But I married him anyway because I loved him. I told myself if I tried hard enough, maybe one day I'd warm his frozen heart. But on our wedding night, he brought home a woman who bore a striking resemblance to my sister. That was only the beginning. I made a deal with myself: when he brought home the 100th woman, I would leave. Sable was the 100th, and she looked more like Isolde than anyone before her. Chapter 2. Hey, look, Isn't that Mr. Blackthorne and Miss Frost? One of the maids suddenly gasped. Snapping out of my thoughts, I glanced at my phone. A blogger was doing random street interviews under a time capsule theme, and just by chance, they'd interviewed Vincent and Sable. Vincent wore his usual blank expression, clearly uninterested. But Sable was excited, practically glowing with enthusiasm. Vincent humored her, playing the doting boyfriend. The blogger read their random question aloud. If you could go back 5 years, what would you do? Sable frowned, pretending to struggle for an answer. Vincent pulled her closer, his voice dangerously soft, but his words sharp as knives. I would have killed anyone who tried to approach me with ulterior motives, and made sure I met Sable much sooner. The tenderness was for Sable. She leaned into him, glowing with happiness. While the cruelty was for me. My grip on the phone tightened, my heart sinking. He still hated me this much. But I didn't care anymore. I printed Sable's picture, slid it into the album of his mistresses and wrote, 100. Goodbye. I locked it away in the study drawer, along with the signed divorce papers. A parting gift for Vincent. He'd like it. After that, I quietly began packing my things. When Vincent and Sable returned, I had just tossed a woven blanket into the trash bin. What are you doing? Vincent asked. My body stiffened slightly. Sort things out where they belong in the garbage, I said flatly. He walked over and saw the bin full of handmade crafts I'd once made for him, along with several expensive dresses he'd given me. You never even wore these dresses. How are they garbage? He frowned. Without stopping my hands, I replied calmly, some things just aren't meant to fit. No point forcing it. Like people. After 5 years, I had finally seen things clearly. Vincent seemed to sense the underlying meaning behind my words, his frown deepening. Before he could say anything, Sable clung to his arm and pouted. Vincent, I'm tired. Can I sleep in that room tonight? She pointed at the master bedroom. Vincent pressed his lips together. Sable just had skin graft surgery. She's uncomfortable at night. It'll be easier for me to take care of her if she sleeps in the master bedroom. I raised my eyes and met Sable's deliberately provocative gaze. She was challenging me. After all, the master bedroom was my last stronghold. In the past, I would throw a fit every time he tried to let one of his women stay there. But now, I don't care anymore. I simply nodded. All right, I'll go pack up my things. The master bedroom was filled with memories I had poured my heart into. It took me an entire afternoon to clear it out. When Vincent saw the empty room, his expression grew strange. Sable's only staying temporarily. Once she's better, she'll move out. Why pack everything thoroughly? I'd rather replace things when the time comes than cling to the old, I answered smoothly. Vincent stared at me suspiciously. Andrea, you're not acting like yourself. What are you plotting? I said nothing. Just then, Sable let out a little gasp. Wow, this bracelet is gorgeous. I looked up sharply and saw her holding a pale pink agate bracelet from my vanity. My chest tightened. I quickly strode over. Give it back. Chapter 3. Sable turned to Vincent with wide, innocent eyes. Vincent, I really like this one. Before Vincent could respond, I cut in firmly, that's mine. My tone was sharp and Vincent's face darkened. It's just a stupid bracelet. She's giving you some face by even liking it. Stop making a scene, he snapped. I was fuming. That bracelet was my mother's. I was an illegitimate child, raised secretly in the countryside with my younger brother. My foster mother was poor. That bracelet was a gift she saved up for months to buy me for my coming of age. Vincent knew that. His brows furrowed, he hesitated as he glanced at Sable. Sable, ever the manipulator, quickly played innocent. I'm so sorry, Andrea. I didn't realize it was that important to you. Here, I'll give it back. She reached out, but as she did, her fingers conveniently slipped. The bracelet fell to the floor and shattered into pieces. My outstretched hand froze midair as I watched the last thing my mother ever gave me break. Beyond repair. The tears came before I could stop them, but I swallowed my sobs and slapped her across the face. Sable stumbled back in shock, hitting her head on the dresser, a bruise immediately forming on her forehead. Vincent exploded. He slapped me so hard I fell to the ground, my ears ringing. My hand landed on the broken shards, instantly drawing blood. Sable burst into tears, wailing, Vincent, my face. Am I going to be disfigured? Her face so much like my sister's only fueled his fury. Vincent scooped her up protectively. It's okay, sweetheart. I'll take you to the hospital. He stormed out so fast that he knocked over the decor by the cabinet. A plaster statue crashed down, landing squarely on my head, blood gushing down my face. But he didn't even glance back. I was used to this. Calmly, I pulled out my phone and called for an ambulance. When I woke up, Vincent was sitting by my hospital bed, face like stone. Usually, he would be screaming at me by now. Instead, he glanced at me coldly and said, "Tomorrow, we're going to Emerald Island. You used to train for mermaid shows, didn't you? Sable's willing to forgive you if you perform for her. Consider it your apology." I had learned mermaid performances because Vincent loved watching underwater shows. I wanted to be closer to him. I had even secretly rented an entire aquarium for his birthday, just to surprise him. But the moment he saw me in that tank, the revulsion in his eyes was searing. He ordered the guards to rip off my oxygen mask, leaving me trapped underwater for nearly an hour. I blacked out from oxygen deprivation before he finally let me out. Since then, I've been terrified of water. "I'm not going," I said instinctively. He didn't even bother to argue. The next morning, he had me forcibly dragged onto a helicopter. As the rotors lifted us into the sky, my stomach twisted into knots. The sea surrounding Emerald Island sparkled under the sun, stretching endlessly into the horizon. To anyone else, it was paradise. But as I stared at the waves gently rising and falling, all I felt was a suffocating dread tightening around my chest. The moment we landed, I broke into a run, sprinting toward the far edge of the island. Strangely, he didn't come after me. A surge of unease crawled up my spine. Suddenly, the clear blue sky darkened. The bright sunshine vanished as thick storm clouds rolled in. The wind howled and I knew a storm was coming fast. Panicked, I called him. "Where are you? Where am I supposed to stay tonight?" He chuckled coldly on the other end. "After everything you've done, you still expect me to give you shelter? You really do live in a fantasy world." My anxiety spiked. "What do you mean?" The wind picked up sharply, but his voice was even colder. "We're taking the chopper back. The signal here will be cut soon. If you want to survive, figure it out yourself." The line went dead, his words slicing through me like knives. Clutching my jacket tighter around me, I heard the first rumble of thunder in the distance and then it started. Large raindrops pelted down, the horizon disappearing as the sea grew wild and angry. My eyes widened in terror. I turned and ran in the opposite direction. Thunder cracked, wind roared, waves swelled like monsters and crashed down on me. The churning sea swallowed me whole. My screams were drowned out by the violent water. Lightning slashed through the sky, illuminating everything for a brief, terrifying moment. As my consciousness slipped away, I saw them in that flicker of light. My adoptive parents smiled at me gently. My tone was sharp and Vincent's face darkened. "It's just a stupid bracelet. She's giving you some face by even liking it. Stop making a scene," he snapped. I was fuming. That bracelet was my mother's. I was an illegitimate child, raised secretly in the countryside with my younger brother. My foster mother was poor. That bracelet was a gift she saved up for months to buy me for my coming of age. Vincent knew that. His brows furrowed, he hesitated as he glanced at Sable. Sable, ever the manipulator, quickly played innocent. "I'm so sorry, Andrea. I didn't realize it was that important to you. Here, I'll give it back." She reached out, but as she did, her fingers conveniently slipped. The bracelet fell to the floor and shattered into pieces. My outstretched hand froze midair as I watched the last thing my mother ever gave me break. Beyond repair. The tears came before I could stop them, but I swallowed my sobs and slapped her across the face. Sable stumbled back in shock, hitting her head on the dresser, a bruise immediately forming on her forehead. Vincent exploded. He slapped me so hard I fell to the ground, my ears ringing. My hand landed on the broken shards, instantly drawing blood. Sable burst into tears, wailing, "Vincent, my face. Am I going to be disfigured?" Her face so much like my sister's only fueled his fury. Vincent scooped her up protectively. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'll take you to the hospital." He stormed out so fast that he knocked over the decor by the cabinet. A plaster statue crashed down, landing squarely on my head, blood gushing down my face. But he didn't even glance back. I was used to this. Calmly, I pulled out my phone and called for an ambulance. When I woke up, Vincent was sitting by my hospital bed, face like stone. Usually, he would be screaming at me by now. Instead, he glanced at me coldly and said, "Tomorrow, we're going to Emerald Island. You used to train for mermaid shows, didn't you? Sable's willing to forgive you if you perform for her. Consider it your apology." I had learned mermaid performances because Vincent loved watching underwater shows. I wanted to be closer to him. I had even secretly rented an entire aquarium for his birthday, just to surprise him. But the moment he saw me in that tank, the revulsion in his eyes was searing. He ordered the guards to rip off my oxygen mask, leaving me trapped underwater for nearly an hour. I blacked out from oxygen deprivation before he finally let me out. Since then, I've been terrified of water. I'm not going, I said instinctively. He didn't even bother to argue. The next morning, he had me forcibly dragged onto a helicopter. As the rotors lifted us into the sky, my stomach twisted into knots. The sea surrounding Emerald Island sparkled under the sun, stretching endlessly into the horizon. To anyone else, it was paradise. But as I stared at the waves gently rising and falling, all I felt was a suffocating dread tightening around my chest. The moment we landed, I broke into a run, sprinting toward the far edge of the island. Strangely, he didn't come after me. A surge of unease crawled up my spine. Suddenly, the clear blue sky darkened. The bright sunshine vanished as thick storm clouds rolled in. The wind howled and I knew a storm was coming fast. Panicked, I called him. "Where are you? Where am I supposed to stay tonight?" He chuckled coldly on the other end. "After everything you've done, you still expect me to give you shelter? You really do live in a fantasy world." My anxiety spiked. "What do you mean?" The wind picked up sharply, but his voice was even colder. "We're taking the chopper back. The signal here will be cut soon. If you want to survive, figure it out yourself." The line went dead, his words slicing through me like knives. Clutching my jacket tighter around me, I heard the first rumble of thunder in the distance and then it started. Large raindrops pelted down, the horizon disappearing as the sea grew wild and angry. My eyes widened in terror. I turned and ran in the opposite direction. Thunder cracked, wind roared, waves swelled like monsters and crashed down on me. The churning sea swallowed me whole. My screams were drowned out by the violent water. Lightning slashed through the sky, illuminating everything for a brief, terrifying moment. As my consciousness slipped away, I saw them in that flicker of light. My adoptive parents smiled at me gently. "Sweetheart, your birth father has been looking for you. Do you want to go home with him?" No. If this was the price of being a Layton, I'd rather stay in that quiet little mountain village forever. I didn't want blood ties. I didn't want to know Vincent. Chapter 4. The sharp smell of disinfectant pulled me back to consciousness. I opened my eyes to a stark white ceiling, machines beeping steadily beside me. Sable's voice was the first thing I heard. "You've got some nerve. Can't believe those fishermen actually managed to pull you out alive." Turning my head, I saw her standing by the bed, her usual sweet act long gone. Instead, she reached out and gripped my throat, squeezing hard. "Why won't you just die, Andrea? If you were dead, I could finally be Mrs. Blackthorne. Can't you see it? Vincent doesn't love you. You're like a stray dog clinging to a marriage you stole. Pathetic. It only took one word from me for him to abandon you on that island, knowing you're terrified of water. Do you still not get who he truly cares about?" Her grip tightened. She wasn't bluffing, she fully intended to choke me to death. I couldn't breathe. My instincts kicked in and I struggled to fight her off. The next moment, she suddenly let go, her body stumbling backward. She knocked into a medical tray, sending instruments clattering. A sharp pair of scissors sliced across her hand, leaving a bloody gash. Sable let out a high-pitched scream. "Andrea, why did you push me?" Before I could even react, Vincent walked in. Tears welled up in Sable's eyes immediately. "Vincent, I was just checking on Andrea and she didn't even need to finish." The implication hung in the air like poison. Vincent didn't even bother asking for my side of the story. His mouth opened, ready to lash into me. But when he noticed how pale I looked, for once, he held his tongue. Instead, he scooped up the bleeding Sable and rushed her out of the room. 10 minutes later, he stormed back in, face like thunder. Without a word, he yanked me off the edge, stumbled. "Let go. What do you want?" "Sable's condition worsened because of you. She's bleeding heavily. You share a blood type. You're giving her a transfusion." His voice was low, cold. I froze. I had never once heard of any chronic illness she had. And after barely surviving that nightmare on Emerald Island, my body could hardly handle anything more and struggled desperately. "I'm not doing it. Let me go." Vincent gripped my wrist even tighter. "You don't get a say." Elle shoved me toward the doctors. One of them hesitated. "But she is severely weak after everything she's been through. Forcing a transfusion now could cause irreversible harm." Vincent's face was ice. "Sable's life comes first. Do it." The needle pierced my skin. My blood drained quickly, leaving my entire body aching, especially my lower abdomen. Something warm trickled beneath me. Sticky, hot, it wasn't my period. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I clutched my stomach as pain overtook me and then everything went black. When I woke up again, the doctor was sitting beside me with a solemn expression. Miss Layton, I'm sorry. After the trauma your body's been through, you lost the baby. I froze. The baby? He nodded. You were only about a month along. With your anemia and the great number of blood loss, it couldn't survive. Placed my hand over my stomach, unable to say a word. The tiny life I hadn't even known was there gone. Maybe this was fate. Outside, loud booms suddenly filled the air, followed by a chain of explosive bursts. Fireworks. Giant ones, painting the daytime sky with brilliant color, dazzling even in broad daylight. A group of young nurses crowded by the window, chatting excitedly. Did you hear? The CEO of Blackthorn threw this fireworks show to celebrate his wife's pregnancy. So romantic. If I had a husband like that, I could die happy. He's planning a huge party next week too, I heard. Whoever Mrs. Blackthorn is so lucky. If I weren't Mrs. Blackthorn myself, I probably would have swooned over such a grand romantic gesture too. But unfortunately, I am her. My mind drifted back to a year ago. Chapter 5. That night, Vincent came home drunk. He pinned me under him without protection. The next morning, he shoved a handful of pills into my hand. You have no right to carry my child. Even if you ever got pregnant by accident, I'd make sure it never sees the light of day. And now his wish had come true. He forced me to donate blood to his mistress, and because of that, I lost my child. Yet he lit up the whole city with fireworks to celebrate hers. I wept silently. After the IV was finished, I signed my discharge papers and went home. Passing through the backyard, I found myself standing beneath the wisteria tree. Its blooms were in full glory. Without realizing it, I sat beneath it for hours. By evening, Vincent returned with Sable in tow. Spotting me under the tree, he paused. Sable's eyes glimmered as she said sweetly, Vincent, this wisteria is thriving. Should we cut it down and make a good luck charm for our baby? But, I heard Andrea planted this tree herself. She paused, then looked at me with fake sweetness. Would you mind, Andrea? This tree was one of the few beautiful memories Vincent and I shared. My adoptive father had planted it for my adoptive mother. It was their symbol of lifelong love. 4 years ago, I transplanted it here from my hometown, digging the hole with my own hands. Vincent once told me it wouldn't survive. I seized that moment to bargain with him. If I keep it alive and it blooms, would you consider loving me? He went quiet for a long time, then said, I'll think about it. It was the only sliver of hope he'd ever given me. Since then, I'd cared for that tree more than anything else. Once, his 18th mistress broke a single flower off it and I fought her like my life depended on it. Anyone who dared suggest cutting it down would have faced my full wrath. But now, facing Sable's provocation, I smiled faintly. Go ahead, cut it if you want. Vincent frowned, visibly displeased. As I stood to leave, he stopped me. You planted it, he said coldly. So you cut it. I don't want you bringing this up later and blaming Sable for it. He wanted me to destroy my last sanctuary with my own hands. I expected this, but my heart still trembled. A servant handed me the chainsaw. My hands shook as I slowly severed the thick trunk. The master bedroom, my mother's keepsake, the baby, my faith, everything I had treasured was now just entertainment for Sable. Vincent gazed at her indulgently. Pick whichever piece you like. I'll have it carved for you. Sable carefully selected a slender branch no thicker than a finger. Vincent turned to the servants. Clean up the rest. Throw it all in the trash. Trash. That's what my love for him had amounted to. Dropping the chainsaw, I numbly returned to my room. That night, Damien texted me. A month is too long. I'm already back in the country. I'll come get you in 3 days. I stared at the now empty garden and typed my reply, okay. 3 days. That was enough time to settle everything. Chapter 6. The first day, I sold off the equity agreement Vincent had signed. 5 years of torment, this was what he owed me. The next day, with the money in my account, I went to the nursing home to arrange my brother's transfer. There were far better treatments abroad. I was taking him with me. But as soon as I arrived, I was met with chaos. The nurse rushed over, panic written all over her face. Miss Layton, where have you been? Your brother's condition has taken a turn for the worse. My heart dropped. What? But his vitals have been stable all this time. What happened? The nurse couldn't give me any clear answer. Not long after, the doctor emerged from the his face grim. Miss Layton, we've stabilized him for now, but his situation is critical. Things could deteriorate at any moment. This facility isn't equipped for this level of emergency care. I strongly recommend transferring him to the provincial hospital immediately. I didn't hesitate for a second. An ambulance was called and we sped down the highway toward the hospital. We were only 2 blocks away when a line of luxury cars blocked the road. The driver got out to negotiate, but came back shaking his head. They've reserved this entire stretch for a private event. They won't let us through. What could possibly be more important than a life hanging by a thread? I threw open the ambulance door and got out. That's when I saw them, Vincent, leaning casually against his car, one arm wrapped around Sable. At that moment, the massive LED display on one of the cars lit up. Happy 24th birthday, Sable Frost. A birthday celebration. They blocked an emergency route for a birthday party. Rage boiled inside me. Vincent, move the cars. We need to get through to the hospital. He looked over lazily. You just got discharged. Instead of going home to cook some soup for Sable, you're running off to the hospital? What for? My brother. I snapped, my voice trembling with urgency. His condition worsened. I need to get him to the hospital right now. My adoptive parents were long gone. My brother was all I had left in this world. And Vincent knew that better than anyone. He hesitated, but Sable leaned in, feigning confusion. Your brother? Isn't he safe, comfortable and perfectly fine at the nursing home as we speak? I was burning with frustration. I don't have time for your games, Sable. This is a life and death situation. Move out of the way. Her lips quivered as she forced tears into her voice. Andrea, I know you're upset because Vincent's been spending so much time with me lately. But how could you stoop so low? Cursing your own brothers to death just because you're jealous? Then she glanced at Vincent with an innocent look. Vincent could easily check the truth with a quick phone call. There's really no need to lie, is there? Her soft, gentle voice landed like a knife hitting every one of Vincent's sore spots. Frowning, he dialed a call. After a short conversation, the hesitation on his face vanished entirely. Just then, the medical equipment inside the ambulance started beeping wildly. Miss Layton, we're losing him, the nurse cried out. We need to move now. My palms were soaked in sweat as I pleaded, Vincent, I'm begging you. Please let us through, but Vincent only sneered. I just called. Your brother's at the nursing home, perfectly fine. I really didn't expect you to sink this low, Andrea. How much did you pay that actor inside the ambulance? You're just jealous of Sable's pregnancy, so you picked today of all days to pull this stunt and ruin her birthday. The machines inside shrieked louder. But he was too caught up in his own delusions to see the truth. Moments later, one long flatline rang out from inside the ambulance. Chaos erupted as the paramedics rushed to resuscitate him. The doctor soon came out, shaking his head. I'm sorry, Miss Layton. We were too late. My whole body trembled. The tears wouldn't stop falling. Vincent, my voice cracked. You've finally done it. For Sable, you killed the last family I had left. Are you happy now? For a brief moment, seeing my devastation, doubt flickered across his face. He opened his mouth to say something when Sable handed him her phone. Vincent, I was worried I might be wrong, so I called the nurse earlier. Look, they're taking good care of her brother. She showed him a photo of my brother, perfectly fine, being wiped down in his hospital bed. The perfect cover. Whatever doubt Vincent had vanished in an instant. Disgust twisted across his face. Such an amazing actress. What a waste not going into show business. Today's Sable's birthday, so I won't deal with your nonsense now. But tomorrow, we'll finish this. With that, he pulled Sable close and walked away without a second glance. I crumbled beside my brother's cooling body, sobbing for help. Chapter 7. The crematorium was cold and empty. I sat there the whole night, staring blankly at nothing. On the third day, I officially signed away my legal identity and brought my brother's ashes back home. The moment I stepped through the door, Vincent was already waiting. His voice was sharply irritated. Why didn't you answer my calls last night? Do you have any idea how upset Sable was? You completely ruined her birthday. I kept my voice calm. I was at the crematorium, waiting for my brother. He let out a cold, mocking laugh. Always lie with you. What are you gonna say next? That what you're holding is really his urn? I said nothing. There was no point trying to defend myself. He never believed me anyway. Vincent waved his hand like he couldn't be bothered. Forget it. Sable didn't sleep well last night, you owe her. Sable's eyes lit up instantly. Andrea, why don't you make it up to me by giving me a birthday present? That ring you're wearing would be perfect. My wedding ring, the Blackthorn family heirloom Vincent had put on my finger. Out of everything he'd ever given me, it was the only thing that ever felt meaningful. I raised my gaze and looked Vincent dead in the eye. Is that what you want too, Vincent? For a brief moment, I saw hesitation flicker across his face. Sable dropped her gaze, playing the innocent victim. It's okay, Andrea, if you don't want to give it to me, I understand. It's just a birthday gift anyway. Don't really need it. Her pitiful act worked like a charm. Vincent's face hardened. If she wants it, give it to her. Don't make me take it off you myself. Before I could react, Sable jumped up and reached for my hand. In the struggle, the urn slipped from my grip. The porcelain shattered as it hit the floor, sending my brother's ashes scattering across the hardwood. My heart clenched. I dropped to my knees, frantically trying to gather what little I could. And then, just as I reached out, a gust of wind blew through the hall, sending the ashes flying in every direction. No, please, no. My voice broke as my eyes welled up with tears. Vincent stood there, finally seeming to grasp something wasn't right. Andrea, you. But Sable cut him off immediately. I'm so sorry, Andrea. I didn't mean to, she said sweetly, though her foot intentionally crushed one of the remaining bone fragments as she kept trying to snatch the ring from my hand. I shoved her away, my voice shaking with rage. Get away from me. She stumbled backward, landing hard on her backside. The next second, her fake sobs filled the air. Andrea, you know I'm pregnant. How could you push me like that? Do you hate this baby so much? Vincent immediately wrapped his arms around her. Andrea, she just wanted the ring, for God's sake. Why would you get so aggressive? Tears were pouring down my face. Something inside me finally snapped. You will pay for this. I screamed, my voice breaking. One day, you'll both pay for everything you've done to me. I had never been this furious in my entire life. My rage silenced even Vincent. Sable sat frozen, wide-eyed, as if she didn't recognize me anymore. But I didn't care. I didn't care about either of them. All I could think about was my brother. His ashes now scattered across the floor like worthless dust. I dropped to my knees, desperately trying to salvage what little I could, my hands slicing open on the shards of broken porcelain. My blood mixed with the ashes, turning everything into a sticky, painful mess. Vincent's voice softened slightly, like some twisted part of him felt pity. If you didn't want to give the ring, you could have just said so. You didn't need to put on this act. Anyone watching might actually believe this really was your brother's urn. I froze. My hands are still bleeding, my chest heaving. Even now, after everything, I still couldn't get him to believe me. Sable clicked her tongue, letting out a little sigh of annoyance. OWH, the ring's dirty. What a shame. Vincent brushed her hair back, comforting her like she was some fragile princess. Don't worry, I'll buy you a new one. And just like that, they walked away, stepping on my brother's ashes as if they were nothing but dirt beneath their feet. That afternoon, Sable bombarded me with messages. Vincent bought me dozens of rings today. All different designs, with matching necklaces and bracelets too. He said I deserve the very best. Tonight, he's even taking me to an auction to bid on some antique royal jewelry. Rings, the symbol of a lifetime promise, of loyalty, of love. But Vincent's love? Just like these rings, cheap and mass-produced, thrown around like meaningless trinkets. Fine, if that's who he is, then I don't want him anymore. And I don't want the filthy ring either. I walked into the study and opened the drawer. Inside were the photos of his 100 mistresses and the divorce papers I'd quietly prepared long ago. I took off the blood-stained wedding ring and placed it inside, along with my medical report, the one confirming I'd lost our child. Once everything was in order, I gently placed what little was left of my brother's ashes into my suitcase and headed downstairs. I left the house key on the dining table and wiped my fingerprints from the security system. Every trace of me in this mansion was now gone. And then, under the cover of night, I stepped into the car waiting for me outside. I pulled out my phone, snapped the SIM card in half, and tossed it out the window of the moving car. The wind caught it, carrying it far into the trees. By the time he returned, I was already gone. Chapter 8. At the auction house, Vincent didn't hesitate. Every time Sable pointed at something she liked, he simply raised his paddle and bought it. No questions asked. Then came the highlight of the evening, an antique ring. The moment it appeared, Sable's eyes like a child on Christmas morning lit up. Vincent, I heard this ring once belonged to British royalty. So many people have their eyes on it. She practically bounced with excitement. Vincent smiled indulgently. If you want it, it's yours. Her eyes curved into that sweet little expression she always gave him. You're always so good to me, Vincent. As expected, the competition for the ring was fierce. The starting price was 1 million, but it quickly climbed to 10 million. Vincent sat there, calm as ever, waiting until the very end before lazily tossing out simple words. I'll take the highest bid. The room fell silent. For a brief moment, you could hear a pin drop, before the crowd erupted in a flurry of whispers. Mr. Blackthorne is on a roll tonight, huh? He's probably spent hundreds of millions already. Well, the Blackthornes have money to burn. No wonder being Mrs. Blackthorne is the ultimate jackpot. Look at that man, casually dropping millions on a ring that symbolizes eternal love. It's so romantic. Sable beamed, basking in all the envious stares. After all, everything Vincent gave her was a public declaration of his affection. The world knew he was married, but what they didn't know was that the real Mrs. Blackthorne was me, Andrea. Sable, of course, reveled in the title like she'd already won the grand prize. She leaned into Vincent, her voice soft and sweet as she whispered, "You really spoil me, Vincent." But Vincent's mind had already begun to drift. That title, Mrs. Blackthorne, flipped a switch in his head. Andrea, I used to follow him around like a lost puppy. Lately, I'd been acting strange. Normally, if he stayed out late with someone else, I would have bombarded him with calls and texts by now. But tonight, silence. It was as if I didn't care anymore. The thought sent a strange wave of anxiety through him. A feeling he couldn't quite place it in panic? Or anger? No way. I loved him too much to stop caring. I'd probably just sulking. After all, he did let Sable move in and she's pregnant now. Of course I was upset. But it's nothing a little sweet talk wouldn't fix. He found himself oddly at ease with that thought. After 5 years of marriage, I had been nothing but the perfect wife. I even took care of his mistress with grace and tact. We were never going to divorce. With a long life ahead of us, it wouldn't hurt to treat me a little better. Mr. Blackthorne, Mrs. Blackthorne, here's the ring you just won, one of the staff said as they handed them the package. Sable immediately slipped it onto her finger. It's gorgeous. Look, Vincent, it fits me perfectly. The ring did fit her perfectly, snug around her pale slender finger. But all he could see was my hand wearing that oversized family heirloom ring that never really fit me. I had begged him for that ring for months. He only gave in after his grandfather insisted. Even then, I refused to have it resized. I'm not changing it. You gave it to me, so it counts as our engagement ring. What if resizing it makes you pretend you never gave it to me? I'd said, clutching it like it was my most precious treasure. Vincent remembered how one time, rushing to get him stomach meds, the ring slipped off my finger and rolled into the street. Without a second thought, I ran after it straight into oncoming traffic. The car shattered my ribs. I spent 2 months in the hospital, but all I cared about was that the ring was still intact. And now, he'd nearly given it to Sable. No wonder I hadn't called him all night. With that realization, a bit of the panic eased from his chest. The staff were still showering Sable with compliments when, suddenly, the words left his mouth before he could stop them. She's not Mrs. Blackthorne. Chapter 9. The words hung in the air, freezing both Sable and the staff in place. The staff awkwardly smiled and quickly made up some excuse to leave. Sable looked at Vincent gently, her voice soft. What's wrong, Vincent? Vincent didn't even know himself. All he knew was he needed to get out of there. He needed to see me. He stood up, brushing off her question. Nothing. Let's go. For the first time, he didn't wait for Sable to follow him. She scurried behind, trying to keep up. In the car, she kept snapping selfies of herself wearing the ring, flooding her social feed with pictures and updates. Every click of her phone made his skin crawl. I used to do the same. When he gifted me a dress, I'd spend hours getting dolled up, taking dozens of photos to post online for days. If he gave me a simple charm, I'd attach it to my purse, showing it off everywhere I went, spamming my friends with posts. He used to find it annoying. But he never blocked me. Instinctively, he opened his phone and started scrolling through my feed. Nothing. Not one single post. He frowned and clicked into my full profile. The familiar wisteria background was gone, replaced with a pitch-black night sky. The activity log was completely empty. But what truly caught his eye was the stark icon in the center, a severed link. I had deleted him. No, that couldn't be right. He jumped into our chat and tried sending a message. Andrea, you really deleted me? Have you lost your mind? The message failed to send. A red exclamation mark glared back at him. His fingers hovered in midair. The anxiety he thought he'd suppressed came roaring back. Sable nudged closer. Vincent, we're home. What's going on with you? He glanced up. The house was dark. Only the street lamps outside offered a faint glow. Where was I? He stepped out of the car. Sable hurried after him, but he spun around, his tone sharp. Go to Crystal Point. Crystal Point, one of the luxury apartment complexes he owned. Sable froze, blinking at him in confusion. But it's so late, why? Vincent didn't let her finish. With a flick of his hand, he signaled the driver to take her away. Her eyes instantly welled with tears. Vincent, did I do something wrong? No, she didn't, he just couldn't let me see her. His gaze dropped to the antique ring still glittering on her finger. Take it off, Sable gasped, clutching her hand protectively. But you just bought this for me. Don't make me repeat myself, he said, voice low and cold. She bit her lip, holding back tears as she reluctantly slipped the ring off and placed it back in its box. He took it without another word and walked into the house. The living room was eerily silent. Even the nightlight I always left on for him was dark. His gut twisted. He flicked on the light with a sharp click. Empty. I always waited up for him, no matter how late. If I was too tired, I'd fall asleep on the couch. His chest tightened. Andrea, he called. No answer. This had never happened before. Normally, the moment he walked through that door, I'd come running. Heart pounding, he bolted upstairs, clutching the ring box like a lifeline. Maybe I was just tired and went to bed. But the master bedroom was empty. Not only that, every trace of me was gone. He suddenly remembered how, at Sable's request, he'd moved me out of the master bedroom. Maybe? I moved everything into the guest room. Yes, that had to be it. He practically sprinted across the hall, flinging open the guest room door. Empty. The bed hadn't even been made. He yanked open the closet. Nothing. My luggage was gone. Even that silly little ornament I adored had vanished. His breath came in sharp bursts. In the middle of the night, he summoned all the staff back to the house. Chapter 10. Who told you to throw away her things? He sat on the sofa, radiating fury. The staff stood in a line, trembling. The head butler wiped sweat from his forehead. Sir, Madam packed her things herself. Impossible. He refused to believe it. He didn't know if he was more enraged by the thought of me wiping away every trace of myself, or by the fact I had the nerve to defy him. No one dared speak. One of the maids who used to be close with me gathered the courage to whisper, Sir, ever since you brought Miss Sable back, Madam had been packing gradually. She burned some things, threw others away. None of us touched anything. His head snapped toward her, his glare sharp enough to cut steel. The maid flinched under his stare, her voice trembling. But, I think Madam left something for you in the study drawer. Without hesitation, he stood up and stormed toward the study. His mind was racing. I must be pulling some childish stunt, probably left me one of her handmade trinkets as a peace offering. He never cared for that sentimental crap, but seeing me take the first step? Fine. He'd play along. If anything, he owed her for how much he'd been neglecting me lately. He'd leave the antique ring there too, it would cheer me up. I'd come around soon enough. The thought helped settle his nerves. But the moment he opened that drawer, every comforting illusion shattered into dust. There it was staring back at him in cold, bold black letters against blinding white paper, divorce papers. He froze. Why the hell was this here? No, I had gone too far. Panic shot through me as he snatched up the papers and flipped straight to the last page. His heart nearly stopped when he saw his own signature. His signature, complete with the distinct little hook he always added under the middle character. No one could forge that. But he had no memory of signing this. And then it hit him like a freight train. That day, the day Sable had her skin graft. I had handed him 2 documents, begging him to sign them before he left. He was in a rush to get back to Sable and barely glanced at them. That was when he'd signed our divorce? His lips tightened. His gaze shifted to the other object in the drawer. I had treasured that ring with everything I had. I once said I'd never take it off. So why was it here now? It was stained with blood. The dark red seeped into the edges of a white sheet tucked underneath, creating a gruesome ring of color. The bold black letters at the top read, Medical Report. His hand trembled as he reached for it, his chest tightening with dread. A miscarriage report dated precisely at the time he learned Sable was pregnant. Back then, he had forced me to donate blood to Sable. He was lighting up the city with fireworks, celebrating Sable's pregnancy like a fool. And while he was celebrating, I was losing our child. He killed his own child with his own hands. What have I done? The truth crashed into him like a freight train, knocking the air out of his lungs. His legs went weak and he nearly collapsed. As he clutched the report, he noticed there was more beneath it, an album. He grabbed it with shaky fingers. One after another, the faces stared back at the women he had brought home, his countless affairs. And at the very end, Sable's photo. Scrawled on the back in my handwriting were the words 100 goodbyes. His knees finally gave out. He sank to the floor, the photos scattering around him. Their smiling faces mocked him. The housekeeper approached carefully, her voice barely above a whisper as she handed him a fat dove. This is the last footage we have of Madam. He gambled it into the monitor on screen. I appeared wheeling a simple suitcase behind me. I never looked back as I climbed into the waiting car. That final image carved into his chest like a blade. He groped the divorce papers tightly, a pain blooming deep in his chest. The panic he had tried to suppress now erupted like a tidal wave. He couldn't breathe. Hot TNESS took him. Chapter 11. When Vincent woke up, Sable was sitting beside his bed, looking concerned. Vincent, thank God you're awake. The housekeeper called me in the middle of the night, said, you fainted, you scared me to death. Why are you here? He rubbed his pounding temples, his voice cold. She blinked. What do you mean? You asked me to stay here, remember? You said I should move in and take care of myself during the pregnancy. She tried to take his hand, guiding it toward her stomach. But the image of my blood-stained miscarriage report flashed through Vincent's mind and he jerked his hand away. His expression was cold. Sable hesitated, her voice cautious. What's wrong, Vincent? You've been different since last night. He didn't answer her question. Instead, he spoke flatly, go back to Crystal Point. It's quieter there. I'll arrange for someone to take care of you. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You're sending me away? Without giving her a reply, he got up from bed and headed to the bathroom. By the time he finished showering, one of the maids informed him that breakfast was ready. He sat down, trying to sip his usual bowl of congee, but the moment the taste hit his tongue, he spat it out. Who made this? He barked, glaring at the staff. It's disgusting. The chef looked like he was about to burst into tears. Sir, this is the same congee I've always prepared. You think I don't know how my own breakfast tastes? This isn't the same. The chef hesitated before whispering, Sir, ever since you married Madam, she's always been the one preparing your breakfast. She wakes up at 5 every morning to simmer the porridge slowly, for hours, so it comes out perfectly. He froze. Even my breakfast was my quiet devotion all these years. He shoved the bowl aside, his appetite completely gone. Without another word, he stood up and rushed toward the nursing home. By now, his thoughts had finally cleared. I couldn't have gone far. I still had my brother, that sickly brother I'd do anything for. As long as my brother remained here, I'd have to come back. Yes. He thought I had no choice. He stepped on the gas, his heart racing. But when he arrived, the director delivered a blow he wasn't ready for. He passed away. He stared at the director. Andrea put you up to this? How much did she bribe you? Chapter 12. The director's face darkened. Mr. Blackthorne, I work for your corporation, but some things need to be said. That night, if you hadn't blocked the route for Miss Sable's birthday convoy, the ambulance might have made it in time. What are you talking about? The director took a breath and explained the whole situation. As he listened, a cold sweat broke across his back. No, that couldn't be true. I was just upset that he was celebrating Sable's birthday. I hired a few actors to stage that little drama to get his attention. That ambulance? That wasn't real. There's no way my brother was actually inside. He refused to believe it. He frantically called a friend, demanding to pull up hospital records. He needed proof that my brother was still alive. Minutes later, his friend sent him a photo, a death certificate. He added, Andrea personally signed off on it. I tried calling you that night when she came to file it. But you didn't pick it up. He struggled to remember. That night, he had been with Sable, celebrating her birthday, laughing and kissing under fireworks while his wife handled her brother's death alone. He swallowed hard. Where's he buried? He wasn't. She cremated him. She said she was taking him to see the world. Then it hit him. The urn. That ceramic urn I carried back to the house. It really did hold the ashes of the person I loved most. Everything I said had been true. And he didn't believe me. He'd let Sable smash that urn, while I watched me destroy what little I had left. He closed his eyes, his chest heaving. He left the nursing home with heavy steps. In the car, he called his assistant. Find her. Find out where she went. 20 minutes later, he called back. Sir, the madam has erased her identity. We can't trace her location. Vincent froze. Everything he thought he could handle, all the pain he believed he could bear crumbled. Erasing my identity meant I'd given up everything. Including him. No, I was his wife. I had no right to disappear without his permission. I barged into his world. I insisted on staying by his side. I had no right to just leave. Honestly, it was even nicer than the master bedroom I'd once had back at Vincent's. My throat tightened and tears welled up in my eyes. Apparently, Damien noticed it, because a second later he said, panicking, is it that bad? Shit, I should have known. Just tell me what you don't like and I'll fix it, okay? Don't cry, that's just how Damien is. He totally freaks out whenever I cry. No matter how nasty our fights got, the second I even started tearing up, he'd fold like a cheap lawn chair. Seeing him standing there looking like he was about to get ambushed by an army, I let out a soft chuckle. I'm not gonna cry, Damien. I added, thank you. He exhaled in relief, then scowled. Don't thank me. I hate when you thank me. Of course, I thanked him again knowing full well it'd irritate him. He clenched his jaw, grinding his molars. If this were years ago, he'd have barked back with some snarky retort. But now, he just let out a long, dramatic sigh. You're unbelievable. The warmth in his voice caught me off guard. That familiar teasing affection, it felt strange after so long. Desperate to change the subject before I got emotional, I cleared my throat. So, about that job you promised me. You haven't changed your mind, have you? Damien looked me up and down, giving me that once-over only he could pull off without saying a word. You? Like this? I'd probably lose my entire fortune in a week if I let you handle business right now. I opened my mouth to argue, but he didn't even let me. Sit, he ordered, gently pushing me down onto the bed. Work can wait. I'm holding the position for you. Right now, your job is to get better. I tried to protest, insisting I was perfectly fine to start working, but he cut me off again. I already hired a nutritionist and a private chef for you. Don't make me waste my money. Then he added, but I'm not letting you laze around completely. While you're recovering, I'll start briefing you on the company. We're not in the States, Andrea. The culture here's different. You need to learn how things work. Once you're ready, you'll take your role properly. Got it? I couldn't argue. Damien had already thought of everything. Chapter 13. 2 months flew by and thanks to Damien's militant schedule, I was healthier than I'd been in years. I even put on some weight, not that he was satisfied. He reached over and pinched my cheek like some fussy grandmother. Still too skinny. I swatted his hand away, rolling my eyes. I just weighed myself this morning. 49 kilos. He scoffed. You're 5'6", Andrea. You could stand to gain more. And just like that, he ordered the chef to make me dessert. Again. That afternoon, we boarded his private jet, because of course Damien couldn't do anything halfway, and flew straight to his European jewelry design headquarters. He walked me into a spacious conference room, full of polished executives and design staff, and wasted no time introducing me. Everyone, meet your new design director Andrea Layton. The room went still for a beat too long. And then I felt it, that sharp, icy gaze zeroing in on me like a sniper scope. My eyes followed it, landing on a tall, statuesque blonde with loose golden waves, piercing blue eyes and a face you'd expect to see gracing a Vogue cover. Damien, noticing where my attention landed, made the formal intro. This is Miss Vasiliev, Deputy Director of the Design Department. I nodded and held out my hand, polite as ever. She, however, barely even glanced at me before turning away, blatantly ignoring my gesture. Damien's brow twitched, clearly annoyed. Need I remind you that she's your superior, Katya? He warned. Katya didn't flinch. I shot Damien a quick warning glance. This was not the time to fight my battles for me. I wasn't. Everyone here knew I was parachuting in from nowhere. Dropping me straight into a leadership role would naturally piss people off. If Damien defended me too aggressively, it would only make things worse. He understood, thankfully, and let it slide. The meeting continued as if nothing had happened. But I quickly realized Katya's hostility wasn't just professional. After the meeting, she cornered me by the coffee machine. So, you're the girl Damien's into. I blinked, thrown off by her directness. I'm sorry? She gave me a full head-to-toe scan, lips curling into a half-smile. You've got the look, I'll give you that. I can see why he likes you. You're in love with him, I said bluntly. I've been chasing him for 5 years, she admitted. And for 5 years, he's never given me a shot. Always said there was someone else. After seeing you with my own eyes, now I get it. She stepped a little closer, lowering her voice but keeping that smug little smile. But I'm not a quitter. Her words hung in the air like a loaded gun. So you cornered me for declaring war? I asked. Exactly. She smiled sweetly. Let's make this fair. The international design competition is coming up next month. We both enter. Whoever wins stays. Whoever loses walks away. Deal? I was planning on entering that competition anyway. It was my chance to prove myself, to earn respect without being seen as Damien's charity case. Now she just sweetened the pot. Deal. I took her hand. Her grin widened into something genuine for the first time. I'm looking forward to it, Andrea. That evening, after work, Damien drove me back to my new rented apartment. When I told him about my little competition with Katya, the mood in the car shifted instantly. "You better not lose," he said flatly. But there was tension in his voice he couldn't hide. "What, you bet high on Katya or something?" I teased. He shook his head. "Just worry that you'll win, and then bail on the deal." I rolled my eyes and let the conversation drop. I wasn't ready to wade into the emotional mess between us. This competition was about me proving myself professionally, not sorting out whatever complicated feelings Damien might have buried under all his teasing. Still, Damien hovered like a nervous coach. If he wasn't breathing down my neck while I sketched, he was texting me for progress updates. His desire to see me win might as well have been printed on his forehead in bold neon letters. When the preliminary round came, I submitted my necklace design and secured my place in the finals. Damien exhaled deeply, his lips curling into that maddening grin of his. "Congratulations, one step closer to winning me." I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly gave myself whiplash. Chapter 14. 2 weeks into the competition, Katya and I were neck and neck, both storming through each round like two prizefighters heading for the title match. And in the finals, I won. My broker diamond ring design took home the gold. Katya settled for silver. But, of course, my victory didn't even get a chance to taste sweet. On the day of the award ceremony, everything went sideways. As I stood there, still clutching my trophy, the press swarmed me like bloodthirsty wolves. Microphones shoved into my face, cameras flashing non-stop. "Miss Layton, how does it feel to win a gold medal, by plagiarizing? You got this position at Whitlock Jewelry through connections, didn't you? Was this award also rigged? The Design Association is discussing revoking your award and banning you from future competitions. Care to comment?" Then came the kicker. One of them shoved a printed design draft in front of me. My design draft. I actually laughed, because that was my own work. One I'd done years ago. "I didn't plagiarize," I said calmly. "That draft is my original design." The questions kept coming like rapid fire. "Prove it then. There's no signature. How convenient to claim it's yours now. Where's your respect for real originality?" It was still all about the design, until one reporter went for the jugular. "Rumor has it you were involved with Vincent Blackthorne while he was still married and that the original draft belonged to his wife. Care to explain that, Miss Layton?" The second he said Vincent's name, my entire body stiffened. I hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in months. The press, sensing blood, went rabid. They tried to dig into my past, into my private life, until I could barely hold my footing. The edge of the stage was only a few feet away. In these ridiculous 6-inch heels, one misstep could shatter my ankle. And that's when it happened. An arm wrapped firmly around my waist and yanked me back with such force that I crashed into a solid, familiar chest, Damien. His jaw was tight as he glared at the reporters. "Are you all trying to live stream a murder here?" The room went pin-drop silent under his full, furious authority. Holding me protectively, he faced the press with that cold, corporate voice of his. "Andrea is my lead designer, hired on merit. She did not plagiarize. Orem Nore stands behind her fully. And whoever's behind this smear campaign will be dealt with thoroughly." No one dared say another word as he led me out. For a long moment, I couldn't stop staring at him. It hit me like a gut punch. Vincent had never defended me like that. Not once. No matter what Sable did, no matter what I said, he always doubted me. But Damien, I hadn't even spoken a word in my defense and he'd already stood between me and the world. So this is what it feels like to be believed. Without even realizing it, my fingers curled tighter around his hand. He tapped my forehead lightly and said in a gentle voice, "Didn't I tell you? I hate seeing you cry." I looked into his eyes, feeling my throat tighten again. But this time, it wasn't from wanting to cry, it was something else entirely. Winning this competition, it wasn't just about proving Katya wrong anymore. It felt like something much bigger than that. Damien gently squeezed my fingers. "The timing of this leak is too perfect. Feels like someone close to you handed over that draft. Any guesses?" "Vincent." The name immediately came to mind. He was the only one I'd ever shown that design to. I'd once foolishly asked him to customize it as our wedding ring. He never even glanced at it. Just shoved it somewhere in his study like it meant nothing. I nodded slowly. It could have come from him. Damien let out a sharp breath, his lips curling. "Figures. Blackthorn scum." I stayed quiet. He glanced at me sideways. "If it is really him, how do you want me to handle it?" He sounded nervous, like he was bracing himself for me to defend Vincent. I smiled faintly. "Do whatever you need to do." A slow grin spread across his face. Then I'll do it my way. Of course, his way was anything but normal, especially knowing how Damien operates. But surprisingly, after a full investigation, it turned out Vincent wasn't the one behind it. Chapter 15. Damien handed me the results of the investigation. I stared at the name on the document. Sable? I don't understand. I blinked, stunned. I left. She should have had a free shot at Vincent. Why is she still trying to destroy me? Damien didn't sugarcoat it. Because Vincent's a goddamn psycho. I frowned, confused. He went on to explain the rest of the findings. Turns out, after I left, Vincent practically forced Sable to stay at Crystal Point. She kept trying to see him, but he refused every time. After a while, he even stopped taking her calls. Desperate for attention, she showed up at Blackthorn's headquarters, trying to confront him. They had a heated argument in his office, and after that, Vincent assigned bodyguards to keep her at Crystal Point like some kind of house arrest. Months passed and Vincent never once came to see her. Pregnancy alone is already an emotional roller coaster. And for someone like Sable, who was banking everything on securing her place, being locked up like that was pure torture. Then, just as she was panicking about being tossed aside after giving birth, Vincent suddenly went all out looking for me, creating a scene big enough to catch Eddie Blackthorn's attention. The old man specifically requested to meet Sable, and when he learned she was pregnant, he made it very clear they would keep the child, but not necessarily the mother. Sable didn't dare go against the old man, but the resentment inside her kept growing like a weed. And then I blew up in the international design competition, famous overnight, winning praise, stealing the spotlight. Meanwhile, she was stuck giving birth in isolation, completely powerless. She couldn't take it. She wanted to ruin me. And she almost did. The international design competition had worldwide attention. The second the plagiarism accusations came out, the internet exploded with hate. Some of the eliminated contestants even posted long statements, slamming and smearing me online. Things got so ugly that a few crazies even threatened to show up at my office and my house. In just a few hours, I went from a rising star to public enemy number one. Damien stated flatly, the design draft she used probably came from Vincent. I agreed. Back when Vincent doted on her, she had full access to his study. It wouldn't have been hard for her to get her hands on it. I looked at Damien. Can you get me the original copy? He nodded. Of course. She's being guarded by Vincent's men at Crystal Point though. You won't get in easily. Damien scoffed. Please, they're nothing but overweight men in suits. I laughed. Well then, I'll leave it to you, Mr. Whitlock. He grinned and took the chance to tease. And what do I get in return for this favor? I played dumb. I'm Whitlock Jewelry's design director. Clearing my name restores the company's reputation. Damien clicked his tongue. Who cares about that? I added, didn't you go on live international TV saying you believed in me? Isn't your reputation on the line too? Damien groaned and ruffled my hair. Keep pretending you don't get it, Andrea. I just smiled, saying nothing. When he finally got tired of bickering, I said softly, I'll grant you one wish. His eyes lit up instantly, a pleased grin spreading across his face. Wait, seriously? I shrugged. Don't believe me? Forget it then. No, I believe you. Of course I do, he quickly replied. You promised, no take-backs. I could tell how much he loved this little deal. Loved it so much, in fact, that he flew straight back home that very night to handle it personally. And I, relieved, focused entirely on work. But what I didn't expect was to see Vincent. I was to get ambushed the very next day by the last person I ever wanted to see. Chapter 16. Compared to the man I used to know, Vincent looked completely wrecked. He'd lost weight, his eyes dull and lifeless, his whole presence clouded with exhaustion and gloom. But the second he saw me, there was a sudden spark of light in his eyes. Then, just as quickly, his gaze narrowed in frustration. Andrea, you're really making me chase you down, huh? I thought seeing him again would stir some heartbreak, hatred. But standing face to face, I felt nothing. I stared at him, expressionless. What do you want, Mr. Blackthorn? The way I addressed him, cold, formal, made irritation flicker across his face. He frowned. How long are you going to keep this up? I almost laughed. After everything, he still thought I was just throwing a tantrum? Vincent, as always, had his own narrative. You're only hanging around my enemy to spite me, aren't you? Sighed. I'd suggest you get therapy. No one needs your crazy here. He wasn't used to seeing me this cold. The more I shut him down, the angrier he got. Andrea, my patience has limits. Don't push me. I know I've wronged you in the past. I'll apologize. But that doesn't give you the right to act like this. I let out a bitter laugh. When exactly did you ever give me the freedom to act like this, Mr. Blackthorn? Vincent was momentarily speechless, his brows furrowing tight in frustration. I held his gaze. No amount of apologies will fix the past. But that doesn't matter. We're divorced. Please, stop showing up in my life. With that, I stepped around him, ready to leave. But he grabbed my wrist tightly, his voice low and cold. No, you begged to marry me. And since I never gave you permission to leave, you can't leave. His grip was strong. I couldn't break free. Let go of me. Vincent ignored me and started pulling me toward his car. I'll pretend none of this ever happened. I yanked my head down and bit into his wrist hard. He cried out, loosening his grip, and I immediately stepped back. I told you, we're divorced. Hearing that word seemed to send him into a rage. His face darkened and he lunged for me again. Just then, Katya appeared out of nowhere and swung her purse right at his head. Chapter 17. We ended up talking late into the night. It was after 11 when we finally called it a day and headed home. But the surprises weren't over yet. As I reached my apartment building, there he was. Vincent, leaning against the wall like some tortured romantic lead. The second he saw me, he took a step forward, but one of Damien's massive bodyguards blocked him immediately. He looked genuinely offended. They're for me? I spread my arms, my face saying, isn't it obvious? Damien sent them? He asked again and sighed. Tell them to move. We need to talk. His voice was calmer now, but the condescension was still there. Like talking to me was some grand favor he was graciously granting. There's nothing to talk about, I said coldly. I've said everything I needed to say. The day I left was the end of us. I'm not avoiding you or playing hard to get. I'm living my new life. And my greatest hope is that you're nowhere in it. I don't know why you're here, and honestly, I don't care. But let me say it one more time, I'm never coming back to you. My bluntness clearly pissed him off. But surprisingly, instead of blowing up like he usually would, he kept his voice steady. Because you're still mad? He asked softly. Without waiting for my answer, he continued, drawing his own conclusions. You must be mad because I got Sable pregnant, because I caused you to miscarry, because I blocked your brother's ambulance that night. I didn't deny any of it. Because he wasn't wrong. At one point, yes, I was furious. But rather than call it anger, I'd call it disappointment. And after he failed me over and over again, I finally decided I'd had enough. I gave up. He looked at me like a man who'd just made the hardest decision of his life. I admit everything. I was wrong, I'll make it up to you. Just tell me, how long will it take for you to forgive me? I shook my head slowly. I'm not angry anymore. For a brief second, his eyes lit up, like he thought there was still hope. But then I drove the final nail in. You're not worth my anger. The words hit him like a punch in the gut. His face twisted as if he'd just swallowed glass. You say you'll make up for it. My voice sharpened. So tell me, what kind of compensation brings back my dead child? Or my brother? He had no answer. I sighed, giving him one last chance. Go home, Vincent. The best ending for us is to become complete strangers, but Vincent wasn't ready to walk away. Instead of leaving, he parked himself outside my office like a damn stalker, breakfast, lunch and dinner showing up on time like clockwork. The bodyguards kept him at bay while he shouted obscenities at everyone within earshot. One afternoon, I was walking into the office when I heard him yelling again. You think Damien's really gonna stand by you? All he's done is hire these oversized rent-a-cops. The internet's tearing you apart, your reputation's toast. And where is he? Sitting on his damn throne, doing nothing. I stopped, spun around and faced him calmly. And what exactly have you done, Vincent? If you come back with me, he said quickly, I'll make all this disappear. Your name will be clean overnight. That was the moment the final piece clicked. So you knew Sable was behind this? I said. He stayed silent, which was answer enough. I let out a bitter laugh. The story had broken weeks ago and he could have shut it down faster than anyone let it spread. He stood by while the world tore my name apart, waiting for me to get desperate. Using it as leverage to pull me back to him. And maybe, if he succeeded, he'd use it to keep me under his thumb. For the first time, I saw him for exactly what he was, small. Manipulative. Pathetic. You're disgusting, Vincent. My voice trembled, not with fear or sadness but with pure revulsion. Chapter 18. That was the first time I'd ever said anything that harsh to Vincent. For a moment, he just stood there, stunned, unable to process the blow. But when the shock wore off, the tantrum kicked in. His words were venomous, insulting me, insulting Damien. You think Damien's any better than me? He spat. The plagiarism scandal is tanking Orem Noor's stock price as we speak. Just wait, he'll sacrifice you to save himself. He'll feed you to the wolves the moment it benefits him. Sorry to disappoint you, came a calm, familiar voice behind me. I didn't even have to turn, I knew that voice anywhere. Damien appeared at my side like some damn knight in a tailored suit, casually slipping his arm around my shoulders. His timing was always impeccable, but I'm not like you, Damien said smoothly. No matter what happens, I'll stand by Andrea. Vincent's jaw clenched as he locked his eyes on Damien's hand resting on my shoulder. Get your hands off her. Damien cocked an eyebrow. And who exactly are you to make that demand? Her ex-husband? Yeah, that title doesn't carry much weight anymore. The words ex-husband landed like a blade right between Vincent's ribs. He turned to me, seething. Seriously, Andrea? You've got no shame, cozying up to him right in front of me? I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly saw my brain. Who I'm close with is none of your business, Vincent. I'm my own woman. Damien chuckled. That's right. Hell, we could kiss right here and now and it still wouldn't be your concern. Vincent's face flushed deep red. Don't you dare. Damien turned to me with that glint of mischief I was starting to know too well. May I kiss you, Andrea? Instead of answering, I rose on my toes and planted a light kiss on his chin, just enough to drive Vincent absolutely insane. Damien's whole face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. So much for his icy CEO reputation, the man was grinning like a lovesick fool. Vincent, meanwhile, was about to combust. You. He stumbled over his words, his fury tripping over itself. You're disgusting. Have you two been screwing behind my back this whole time? Damien laughed sharply. Unlike you, Vincent, some of us actually know how to keep it in our pants. Vincent froze, chest heaving, desperate for any leverage. So nothing happened between you two? I shot him a look. Whatever's happening between us is none of your damn business. Maybe focus on cleaning up Sable's mess instead of obsessing over mine. And with that, I grabbed Damien's hand and pulled him inside the building. Damien handed me the original design sketch. All right, how do you want to do this? I shot Damien a sly little smile. Have Orem Noor's official account release a statement. Tell everyone I'll be addressing the plagiarism accusations tonight live. Damien didn't even blink. No questions asked, he simply nodded and made it happen. The plagiarism scandal had been boiling online for days, and the moment our announcement went public, the internet went into complete meltdown. By the time I was sitting in front of the camera, ready to go live at 2 p.m., the waiting audience had swelled past 1 million. I watched as the comment section flooded in like a damn tidal wave. Finally showing your face? You better say something useful. If this turns into some PR crap, I'm boycotting Orem Noor for life. Plagiarizing bitch. Rot in hell. Been following her since the prelims. She's gorgeous and talented. Please don't let us down. The comment feed was flying so fast it looked like a blizzard on my screen. I forced myself not. I sat up straight, my voice calm, unwavering. Regarding the plagiarism accusations, want to make one thing perfectly clear: I did not plagiarize anyone. The so-called original draft circulating online is actually mine. It's my design years ago. The chat immediately erupted again. Prove? Yeah, anyone can say that. Show us real evidence. Out the PR crap. Either bring receipts or shut up. Chapter 19. As the comments kept flooding in, practically demanding evidence, I calmly held up the documents I'd prepared. This, I said, is a handwriting authentication report from a certified forensics lab, expedited just today. It confirms two things. First, that the handwriting on this draft matches all my other competition entries. And second, this design was created 5 years ago. That alone would have been enough to clear my name. But I wasn't done. Back when I still lived with the Ladens, my parents never allowed me to outshine Isolde. I grew used to sketching in secret, quiet rebellion. But I always left myself a safeguard. I grabbed a bowl of water, dipped the corner of the design paper into it and waited. Seconds later, like magic, a hidden signature emerged in elaborate, calligraphic, A. My secret watermark. My personal mark ever since I first started entering competitions. The chat went wild. Are all artists this paranoid? The whistleblower probably didn't even know there was a hidden mark in the design he submitted. He must be freaking out right now, scared it's all gonna blow back on him. That's actually brilliant, a genius way to protect your work. I'd totally do that if I had work. Knew it. Our Andrea never disappoints. I trashed her hard the other day, just ordered Orem Noor's entire fall and winter collection to make up for it. One set's like $500,000. You're rich. Rich. Adopt me, mommy. The mood shifted fast. The comment section quickly devolved into jokes about sugar mommies, while the few lingering trolls were drowned out by loyal supporters. I finally allowed myself a breath. The tide had turned. Before logging off, I kept my tone steady and firm. To those who smeared my name, prepare to meet me in court. Legal action has already been initiated. The reaction was instant waves of praise, calling me fearless, bold. Sales at Aurum Nore skyrocketed. In just 2 days, the stock loss from the scandal had completely rebounded. Based on the trend, things were only going up from here. Damien, of course, seized the moment. Never doubted you a second. I'm getting a feeling that you might be my lucky charm. I rolled my eyes but played along. Go, teamwork. He perched casually on the edge of my desk, eyes dancing with mischief. Now, about that promise you made me. I instinctively leaned back a bit, feeling like I'd just walked into a trap. Depends. What do you have in mind? Damien didn't answer right away, just smiled that infuriatingly charming smile of his. I quickly added, before that, let's just set some ground rules. Nothing dangerous, illegal, or life-threatening. He chuckled. Relax, sweetheart. I'd never risk damaging my star designer. Ever since I'd beaten Katya, he'd stopped bothering to hide his feelings. The random sweet talk had become almost routine. So, what exactly is this favor you want me to do? I asked, raising a brow. He tapped his chin theatrically. Haven't decided yet. I'll let you know when I do. I let out a relieved breath. Dodged that bullet for now. The office grew quiet and I finally shifted gears. How's the lawsuit prep against Sable coming along? Damien grinned like a salesman closing a big deal. The Whitlock legal team is at your service. And they were legendary in the industry, never lost a case. Honestly, it felt like a bit of overkill for just one person, but since my reputation was now tied to Aurum Nore, I wasn't about to say no. So on a perfectly normal Monday, I officially filed a lawsuit against Sable. Chapter 20. The charges weren't just for plagiarism. She had publicly accused me of being Vincent's mistress, claiming I'd ruined their relationship. The trial brought me back to the States. Vincent followed soon after, but with Damien's security detail shadowing me every step, all Vincent could do was watch from a distance. Sable showed up in court heavily pregnant, playing the victim card from the start. Her lawyer kept hammering on the fact she was carrying Vincent's child. The judge delayed a verdict pending further review. As we exited the courthouse, Sable strutted toward me, wearing a sugary sweet smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You just don't know when to quit, do you, Andrea? She sneered. You gave up your identity. You should have stayed buried, living quietly in your hole. Why come back now and stir things up, catching Vincent's attention again? She stared at me with pure venom. He's been ignoring me and our baby to chase after you. What kind of black magic are you using on him? I stared at her coolly. I left him to you. If you can't keep him, that's your problem. Don't come barking at me like some starved bitch. Her fake smile cracked, rage flickering beneath. Don't flatter yourself. You think he loves you? He only cares about me and his child. Don't you see? The second something happens to me, he'll come running just like before. I stiffened, and before I could process her words, she grabbed my wrist and suddenly flung herself backward, aiming straight for the steps behind her. Everything happened fast. The bodyguards and Vincent lunged forward. One of his men caught her just before she hit the stairs. But Vincent? He rushed straight to me, completely ignoring her. His eyes were frantic as he called out, Andrea, are you okay? Sable pulled the same old stunt, but for the first time, Vincent chose me over her. If this had happened back then, I probably would have been touched, even moved. But now? I just thought it was pathetic. Sable's face twisted with disbelief. Vincent, what's wrong with you? I'm the victim here, and you're worried about her? I simply pointed up at the security cameras. Are you sure you want to do this? Accuse me one more time and I won't hesitate to add intentional assault to the list. For once, she was speechless, her face contorted with fury. Vincent approached her. She quickly shifted back into her pitiful damsel act. Vincent, finally, you're looking at me. I've missed you so much. And then slap. He hit her across the face. Hard. Sable froze, stunned. Vincent's voice was ice cold. So this is how you've been framing Andrea all this time? She panicked, shaking her head. No, Vincent, it wasn't me. It's all Andrea. She's jealous she did this to me. Vincent kept his face completely blank as he cut in coldly. You do realize there are 360-degree security cameras everywhere, right? Are you sure you want to stick with that story? That shut her up fast. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. He sneered. You seriously thought you could play me? That you're that clever? At his signal, the guards grabbed her and started escorting her away. Before leaving, Vincent turned back to me. Andrea, I swear, I'll make her pay for what she has done to you. Chapter 21. Honestly, I had no idea what Vincent meant by, make them pay, and I didn't really care. But when I saw Sable again at the second court hearing, she looked like a complete wreck, pale, exhausted, desperate. And strangely enough, her lawyer barely even tried to defend her this time. By the end of the hearing, the verdict was brutal. She was ordered to pay me $50 million and publicly apologize for 3 months straight. As soon as we stepped out of court, Sable completely broke down, clinging to Vincent's sleeve like her life depended on it. Vincent, please, I was wrong. Help me. I don't have 50 million, you have to help me. Vincent's voice was ice. Then earn it. You'll have your entire life after the baby's born to repay your debt. Tears streamed down her face. How could you be so cruel to me? I only did this because I love you. He didn't even flinch. Don't use that word. You're not worthy of it. Her sobbing grew louder. From their exchange, I finally pieced it together. Vincent had been digging into everything while I was gone. He found out the truth, that I was innocent all along, that Sable was full of lies and ambition. This massive debt wasn't just punishment, it was his version of atonement to me. I couldn't help but laugh. Spare me your self-righteous act. Even without your dramatic little intervention, I would have gotten exactly what I wanted in court. After all, Whitlock Legal was as formidable as they came. Vincent looked at me, his voice soft. Andrea, I'm sorry. For everything. I was blind for so long. I see it all now. Unlike his cold indifference back when I left, this time his guilt actually seemed real. Which, coming from someone like him, was a shock. He promised, don't worry. Whatever Sable owes you, I'll make sure she pays every penny. And for every bit of pain she caused you, I'll make sure she pays double. With his nature, I knew he meant it. I narrowed my eyes. What are you planning? He smiled, that unsettling kind of smile that crawls under your skin. You'll see soon enough. A bad feeling twisted in my gut. I glanced at Sable's big belly. After a moment, I said flatly, as far as I'm concerned, she's not even the worst offender here. You are. If you hadn't enabled her, if you hadn't handed her and your other mistresses the weapons to hurt me, none of this would have happened. You made it all possible. So don't pretend you're some tragic savior. You deserve more blame than any of them. His expression twisted with pain. You're right. I should have seen through all of them much sooner. Andrea, once I've settled everything with them, I'll come to you. You're still my wife. The one and only Mrs. Blackthorne. The way he said it made my skin crawl. It was like he'd gone completely off the deep end. Like a grim reaper sharpening his scythe. And Sable was going to be the first to get slashed. I pressed my lips together, saying nothing more. They had all dug their own graves. Whatever happened next was on them. After assigning my attorney to stay behind and collect Sable's payments, I left the country that very night. By the time I landed, it was morning. Damien was waiting for me at the airport. Dressed in a sharp black coat, his features looked even sharper under the cold morning light. He exuded his usual intimidating aura until our eyes met. Then, like always, his tough exterior softened with a nervous smile. Chapter 22. As soon as we stepped out of the terminal, I raised an eyebrow. What's with that look? Is Whitlock going bankrupt or something? Damien completely ignored my sarcasm. I heard you almost patched things up with Vincent. Got back together, even. I blinked. Where the hell did you hear that nonsense? His shoulders relaxed instantly. Good. That's all I needed to hear. Then he told me why he was so on edge. Apparently, word had gotten out that Vincent had come down hard on Sable and made this huge scene at court, apologizing to me like some tragic hero. Damien was terrified I'd fall for Vincent's guilt trip and give him another shot. If I'd known he'd pull that stunt, I would have flown back with you, he muttered. I wouldn't have given that bastard a second alone with you. He hadn't been able to accompany me back home because of a major deal Whitlock was locking down for the upcoming year, one that basically tied him up entirely. I laughed. Wow, so much trust you have in me, huh? Damien looked genuinely worried. Well, you loved him for 5 years. Feelings like that don't just disappear overnight. I paused for a moment, letting his words settle. You're right, the longer you love someone, the harder it is to let go, I said quietly. His shoulders stiffened, but then I tilted my head toward him and smiled. But you know how I am. When I love everything I've got. And when I decide to walk away, I never look back. He sighed dramatically. I honestly don't know if I should admire you for that, or pity myself. I kept quiet, but I knew exactly what he meant. I hadn't given him an answer yet. Not really. But deep down, I knew one thing for sure. A failed marriage wasn't going to rob me of my ability to love again. We walked out of the airport side by side. Damien drove me back to my apartment, and the moment my head hit the pillow, I was out cold until nightfall. Later that evening, Damien came to pick me up for dinner. He took me to this beautiful riverside restaurant, the city lights reflecting off the gentle waves like tiny drifting stars. As always, Damien cut up my steak before sliding my plate back to me. Then suddenly, he chuckled. I looked at him, confused. What's so funny? Propping his chin on his hand, he smirked. Doesn't this feel a bit familiar? And just like that, it clicked. Memories flooded back to the days when I used to boss him around like a little tyrant. We once made a silly bet, he lost and ended up being my servant for a whole week. I remembered that particular night, it was Valentine's Day. Vincent had gone out with Isolde, leaving me heartbroken. So I dragged Damien out for dinner. He'd cut my steak the exact same way back then. I even drank that night. Almost as if reading my mind, Damien asked, "Care for wine?" I nodded. He went ahead and ordered the most expensive bottle on the menu. After dinner, we stepped out onto the terrace. The cool breeze felt calming as I leaned against the railing, gazing at the reflections on the river. Off in the distance, a young couple was having a public proposal under fireworks. The girl blushed, taking the bouquet of flowers, and the surrounding crowd burst into applause. It was so pure, so simple. Love, in its rawest form. Suddenly, I felt Damien's arms circle around me from behind, his hands resting on the railing, caging me in gently. His scent, that familiar mix of woodsy cologne and something uniquely him, surrounded me. I couldn't help but curl my fingers slightly under his touch. He rested his chin lightly on my head, his voice soft and almost wistful. "Andrea, when do you think we'll get to be like them?" It sounded like something said in drunken jest, but the tenderness in his words made my heart skip. Maybe it was the wine, maybe it was the fireworks, but something shifted inside me. I slid my hands over his and smiled softly. Soon, he stiffened, then quickly spun me around to face him, eyes wide. Wait, does that mean what I think it means? I couldn't help but laugh at his boyish excitement. Depends. Let's see how you do. He grinned from ear to ear like a kid on Christmas morning. I won't let you down. Just a little hint of hope and he was already happy. That's when I knew he really was nothing like Vincent. Chapter 23. From that day forward, Damien went into full-on pursuit mode. Flowers, gifts, sweet little surprises, he wasn't shy about showing his feelings. Even at work, he made no attempt to hide his affection. Katya, one of my colleagues, joked, "So that's what he's like when he's in love. I can die happy now that I've witnessed it." She then nudged me, lowering her voice. "Don't say yes too quickly. Let him sweat. You know how men are, they don't treasure what's handed to them too easily." That, I agree. Of course, Damien whined about it constantly. "You kissed me, Andrea? That counts for something." I raised a brow at him. "One kiss and you feel entitled to own me?" "Not that I mind," he grinned, "but I'll settle for you accompanying me to a business gala tonight." As the design director for Aurum Nore, attending wasn't out of place. Damien even had a custom gown made for me. I paired it with one of my own jewelry designs. When we arrived, I realized this wasn't just any gala, his parents were there too. Damien introduced me with zero hesitation. "Mom, Dad, this is Andrea. The woman I've been in love with for 7 years. I'm in the process of courting her right now." His mother immediately took off an exquisite bracelet from her wrist and handed it to me with a kind smile. "First time meeting you, sweetheart. Consider this a little token." I froze. The bracelet was clearly a priceless family heirloom. "Mrs. Whitlock, this is far too valuable. I can't accept it." Damien saw my discomfort and gently took the bracelet. "Mom, I'm still wooing her. Don't scare her off. I'll hold on to it and give it to her once she agrees to become your daughter-in-law, okay?" His mother gave him a playful slap on the arm, half scolding, half laughing. "That's because you didn't tell us you were bringing a date. If we had known, your father and I would have prepared something for her. You made us look so unprepared." Damien slung his arm affectionately around her shoulders, grinning like a mischievous boy. I watched them, feeling a warmth rise in my chest. I couldn't help but envy how effortlessly loving his family was. Sensing I might feel a bit out of place, Damien quickly took my hand and led me away to mingle with some of his business associates. After a few rounds of drinks, I stepped out onto the terrace to get some air. From the corner of my eye, I saw Damien still stuck in conversation with a foreign associate. When I returned to the ballroom, though, I couldn't spot him anywhere. I flagged down a server. "Have you seen Damien?" He pointed toward the staircase. "I saw Mr. Whitlock head upstairs just a moment ago." The gala was winding down anyway, so I decided to go upstairs and find him. But as soon as I stepped into the hallway, I heard soft, breathy moans coming from one of the rooms. A woman's voice, sweet and seductive, floated out. "Mr. Whitlock, let me take care of you." "Don't hold it." I froze like I'd been struck by lightning. Damien? With another woman? Doing that? My head went blank. I could even hear the sound of clothing rustling from behind the door. Pain gripped my chest. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Of course. Damien, woman like me? The golden boy, why would he ever truly devote himself to a divorce? At least we hadn't officially started anything. I could still walk away before it got complicated. And so I turned to leave. But right then, the door flew open and a half-dressed woman was thrown violently out into the hallway. We locked eyes for a split second. She quickly turned her face away in humiliation, screaming into the room behind her. "Damien, you heartless bastard. That drug has no antidote, you'll be a cripple soon enough." Drugs? I froze, unable to move. The woman scrambled to gather her clothes and stormed off in fury. My feet were rooted in place. After a moment of hesitation, I pushed open the door and walked inside. Chapter 24. Inside, Damien was slumped against the sofa, shirt half open, eyes tightly shut. Hearing me enter, he growled through gritted teeth. "Get out, Damien," I called softly. His whole body flinched at the sound of my voice. His bloodshot eyes flew open, glazed with both confusion and burning heat. "Andrea?" he rasped. "Yes, it's me." I rushed to him. "Are you okay?" Damien sat up suddenly, pulling me into a desperate embrace, burying his face into the crook of my neck. His skin was burning hot against mine, it made me tremble. My whole body tensed at the feverish heat radiating from him. "God, Andrea, it's unbearable." His voice was low and strained, lips brushing against my skin like he was desperately trying to ground himself. The contact sent a wave of goosebumps crawling up my arms. "Can you stand? I'll take you to the hospital." But deep down I knew, this stuff whatever they gave him hospital won't help. Suddenly, he shoved me away, breathing heavily. "Get out. Lock the door behind you. Don't let anyone in. And leave you to suffer?" "No, I can't do that," I refute. His teeth ground together. "It's just a pill drug. I'll fight it off," said the man, sweating bullets and pulsing with barely contained energy like he was about to combust. His entire body was trembling, veins bulging, breathing ragged. The raw heat rolling off him was almost suffocating. Then his eyes locked onto mine, sharp, predatory, like a wolf cornering its prey. My stomach twisted. "Damien, are you still with me?" He wrenched his gaze away, fighting for control. And then without warning he grabbed a fruit knife from the table and jammed it into his arm. My breath caught as blood spilled freely. His body jerked, but in his eyes, for one brief second, there was clarity. "Andrea, get out. I don't want to hurt you." The sight of his blood pooling on the floor sent panic slamming into my chest. He would rather hurt himself than risk touching me under the influence of whatever the hell they drugged him with. At that moment, something inside me cracked. I thought back on everything. How Damien had stood by me through the worst of my scandals, defending me when the whole world was ready to tear me down. How he respected my space, never crossing boundaries, always putting my comfort first. Even now, in this mess, his only concern was protecting me. He deserved more than me walking away. I sat down next to him, gently taking the knife from his hand. I tore a strip off my dress and wrapped his bleeding arm as tightly as I could. His breathing was labored, his voice hoarse. "Andrea, if you don't leave now, I won't be able to stop myself." Cupped his face, brushing my thumb over the sweat-soaked skin. I kissed him softly on the cheek. "Do you want me to leave?" He bit his lip, his voice strained. "Andrea, once you stay, there's no turning back." I smiled softly. "I'm not going anywhere." With that, he pulled me into a fierce kiss. "You don't get to back out here. For one last time, are you sure?" I nodded. The heat of his body enveloped me as he pushed me down, his movements both desperate and controlled. My strapless gown tore under his hands and I barely managed to gasp, "The door, it's open." With a growl, he scooped me up, kicked the door shut and carried me to the massive hotel bed. The sheets were cool against my back, a stark contrast to his feverish skin. My hand slid over his wounded arm, smearing blood between us. I hesitated. "Your arm." "Not the time to worry about that," he rasped, lifting my leg over his hip. Driven half mad by the drug and the years of tension between us, his touch was wild. I arched against him, my moans swallowed by the intensity of it all. The ceiling spun, my voice hoarse from crying out his name. Chapter 25. When I finally woke up the next morning, Damien was already sitting at the edge of the bed, his arm freshly bandaged and wearing that ridiculously smug grin of his. The moment my eyes fluttered open, he leaned down and showered me with kisses. I shoved at him, groaning. "It's too damn early. Get off me, you horny bastard." I startled at my own voice, a scratchy rasp that made me sound like I'd chain-smoked a pack of cigarettes in one night. Damien was already handing me a warm glass of water. "Here, that should help the voice." I drank, sat up carefully and instantly regretted it when my whole body screamed like I'd been steamrolled. My back, my hips, my thighs, everything hurts. Damien, the ever-attentive gentleman, immediately started massaging my waist like he was born for it. "I ordered your favorite Asian breakfast. Want to eat here or downstairs?" "Downstairs," I muttered, wanting to get out of this bedroom before he tried anything else. But when I tried to walk to the bathroom, that burning friction between my legs made me want to murder him. And of course, the jackass followed me. "You," I whipped around, glaring. "Have you been celibate for, like, a century? You were like a beast." To my surprise, he actually flushed a little, scratching the back of his neck. "First time, actually. Go easy on me, Andrea." I froze. "Wait, what? First time, like, ever?" He nodded. "Well, that explained a lot." "Fine. I wasn't heartless." I let him off the hook. Lunch was amazing. He had the hotel serve all my favorite comfort food. Once I'd stuffed myself, my strength finally started to return, but Damien still insisted on carrying me back to the car like I was some fragile porcelain doll. He drove me straight back to my apartment, tucked me of course into bed like some overly protective husband, and tried to climb into bed with me again. "Don't you have your own place? Go home," I said, shoving at his chest. He looked genuinely offended. "Are you seriously kicking me out after what we just shared?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. "I just don't trust the self-control you have. Honestly, I couldn't make it to the first round last night because of the drug. But the second time? That was pure lack of control. Not to mention, it was his first time. Like, how am I supposed to endure the man that's been holding himself for 30 years? "Relax, I'm exhausted too," he said, lying down beside me. "I promise I won't touch you." I wasn't entirely convinced. Before I could say anything else, Damien pulled me into his arms and quickly drifted off to sleep. When I woke up again, it was already dark outside. Damien had ordered dinner, and after we ate, we somehow ended up tangled together again. When we finally caught our breath, I looked at him. "What the hell happened last night? I was barely gone for a few minutes and you were already drugged." Damien's eyes darkened. "Someone got impatient, that's what." With both his parents at the party, if anyone had caught him in the act, even if it was forced, the pressure would have been enormous for him to take responsibility. Marrying into the Whitlock family was an opportunity many people would kill for. I felt a pang of sympathy. "Do you live with this kind of scheming every day?" He let out a dry laugh and said he was used to it. Usually, he stayed vigilant during these events. But this time, with me around, he'd let his guard down and someone took advantage. I couldn't resist teasing him. "So basically, it's my fault you got drugged?" Damien grinned, tightening his hold around me. "Well, since you became my antidote, I'll forgive you." One bit his shoulder playfully. He hissed and his hand, which had been resting innocently on my waist, started wandering. "Stop it," I quickly pulled away. "I really can't handle any more." Damien sighed regretfully. By 10 o'clock, I finally pushed him out the door. As he lingered at the entrance, clearly reluctant to leave, he asked, "Can't I just move in with you? Or you could move in with me?" I crossed my arms. "Not the right time." He raised a brow. "And when exactly would it be right?" I pretended to think for a moment. "Give it, I don't know, 3 to 5 years? His jaw dropped. "You might as well have stabbed me now, Andrea." I laughed, shoving him toward the elevator. "You've already been stabbed once, remember? Now go home. And keep that arm dry." He sighed heavily, dragging his feet with every step like I was breaking his heart all over again. Honestly, if anyone saw this, they'd think I was some cold-hearted femme fatale leading him on. Chapter 26. About a week later, news broke that a promising mid-sized firm in the industry had gone bankrupt. 80% of their clients ended up flocking straight to Whitlock Jewelry, which of course triggered a storm of speculation. Reporters swarmed around Damien the moment he stepped out of his office, one of them daring enough to shove a mic in his face and ask, "Mr. Whitlock, any comment on the situation?" Damien didn't even blink. "If you play dirty, you'd better be ready to face the consequences." Just one sentence. Short, sharp and lethal. It basically confirmed that their downfall had been his doing. The media quickly dug deeper, unearthing what had happened to him at that banquet. The whole scheme, the drugging attempt. People were shocked, but honestly, it sent a pretty effective warning across the industry. Nobody would be stupid enough to try pulling that kind of stunt on him again anytime soon. Still, even with his enemies handled, Damien had a new obsession. "When can we go public, Andrea?" he asked for what felt like the 10th time that week. I arched my brow. "Can't we just keep things low-key?" He crossed his arms and argued like a petulant teenager. "Low-key? I have an amazing girlfriend. The world deserves to know." I shot him a sideways look. I wonder who that might be." Without missing a beat, he pulled me into his arms. "You are. Who else could it be?" I didn't reply, only pouted a little. After that night we slept together, we sort of, naturally slipped into dating. But deep down, I felt like something was missing. An official moment. A proper beginning. Damien had been too busy wiping out the people who'd tried to trap him to notice my little hang-up. And I was too embarrassed to bring it up myself. I didn't want to sound clingy or childish. But Damien, ever so intuitive, caught on. So on New Year's Eve, he brought me to his villa. The moment we stepped inside, I knew what he was planning. The lights had been dimmed to a warm, soft glow a little darker than usual, giving the whole house a romantic vibe. On the long dining table sat an elaborate floral arrangement surrounding a flickering candle centerpiece. And nestled inside the blooms was a necklace I recognized immediately. It was the one he'd won at an auction just days earlier. The diamond was huge, catching the light with every tiny movement. Standing at the end of the table, Damien held a bouquet of white lisianthus and smiled at me under the soft lighting. "They say every official relationship should start with flowers and a confession," he began, his voice tender. "I didn't come up with anything special, so I figured I'd stick with tradition." He paused, taking a breath. "Andrea, I like you, not just for a moment. From the very first time I saw you, you carved a place inside me. I was young and stupid back then. I kept trying to get your attention by pissing you off. Later, I realized that's not how you show love. Sometimes, I wonder, if I had been a little more mature back then, if I'd started chasing you sooner, maybe you wouldn't have had to go through all that pain. I regret letting you slip away for those 5 long years. But at least now, I still have time to heal you, to make up for all that's been lost." His voice trembled slightly as he held out the flowers. "Andrea, will you be my girlfriend?" God, he looked so nervous even though we both knew what my answer would be. My chest tightened with warmth. Smiling, I reached out and took the bouquet from his hands. "Yes." The tension in his face instantly melted into pure joy. He lifted me off my feet and spun me around in a full circle. "Damien, stop. Stop spinning. I'm getting dizzy." I laughed, clinging to his neck. He finally set me down, planting a heavy kiss on my forehead before carefully fastening the necklace around my neck. And of course, that same night, he snapped a selfie of us and made our relationship Instagram official. Katya was the first to comment, "Finally official? Congratulations, lovebirds." Damien blinked, clearly confused. Why does she sound like an overprotective sister who just watched her precious little sister get snatched up? "Since when are you two so close?" I held my chin up. "Girl thing, you wouldn't understand." From that night on, Damien and I officially dove headfirst into our relationship. And I had to admit he was an excellent boyfriend. He showered me with affection, spoiled me rotten, offered unwavering emotional support, and let's be real, his financial resources didn't hurt either. Bathed in his overwhelming love, I finally learned how to love someone with my whole heart. Again, while I was falling deeper and deeper into this beautiful chapter of my life, somewhere else, far across the country, Sable was living through a nightmare that never seemed to end. Chapter 27. I only heard bits and pieces of what happened after that. They said that back in March, Sable had given birth to Vincent's son. The moment the baby came into the world, Vincent ordered his people to take the child away. Sable didn't even get a glimpse of her own son. She broke down sobbing right there in the delivery room. "That's my baby. He came out of my body. Can I at least see him? Just once, please," she begged. Vincent stood there like ice. "Save your tears. You'll have plenty of chances to cry later." She was discharged a week later and sent straight back to Crystal Point. But everything was different now. Before she gave birth, she had a whole team of chefs, nutritionists and housekeepers pampering her, making sure her life was nothing short of luxurious. Now, there wasn't even a single maid left. She dragged her weak, postpartum body around that massive house, forced to care for herself completely alone. A month later, Vincent finally showed up at Crystal Point. The moment she saw him, Sable dropped to her knees with a loud thud, tears streaming down her face. I was wrong, Vincent. I should have never hurt Andrea. I never should have dreamt of taking her place. I don't even want the child anymore, just let me go. Please. I swear I'll disappear and never bother you again. Vincent kicked her aside like she was a worthless piece of trash. If you know you were wrong, then you can atone for it. Before Sable could even process what he meant, Vincent waved his hand. 2 bodyguards stepped forward and grabbed her arms. A cold wave of terror surged through her. She struggled desperately. Where are you taking me? Let me go. Don't touch me. But after childbirth, her strength was no match for the 2 burly men. They hauled her away effortlessly and threw her into one of Vincent's private clubs. Vincent's voice was like the devil's whisper. I've carefully selected some clients for you. Do your best to serve them. Sable bolted for the door. Moments later, 5 or 6 disgusting men walked into the room, leering at her with greedy eyes. No wonder you were Mr. Blackthorn's woman, one of them chuckled. Look at that face, that body, pure perfection. I heard she just gave birth not long ago, another added with a twisted grin. Makes things even more exciting. Sable clutched her body, trembling in horror. If you know who I am, then stay away. Vincent won't spare you if you touch me. The men laughed. Don't bluff, sweetheart. Mr. Blackthorn's right outside. He told us to have fun. With that, they lunged toward her. Sable shrieked in terror. Don't touch me. Get your filthy hands off. No, please. Vincent, let me out. Help me, please. But the room wasn't fully soundproof. Vincent stood outside the door, hearing every desperate cry. And yet, he didn't flinch. Not even once. Less than a minute later, the disgusting sounds started pouring out of the room. Vincent crushed his cigarette underfoot and walked away. Sable was locked in there for 5 days. When they finally dragged her out, her body was covered in bruises, her skin torn and battered, and a foul stench clung to her. The guards returned her to Crystal Point per Vincent's orders. She sat at the window every day, blank-eyed, staring into nothingness. Afraid she might simply waste away and die, Vincent eventually assigned caretakers to look after her again. Sable mistook his gesture for mercy and begged to see him. A month later, Vincent finally showed up. And this time, he delivered even more cruelty. Congratulations, he said flatly. You're pregnant. Her whole body stiffened like she'd been struck by lightning. During those 5 horrific days, she had been violated by so many men, she had no idea who the father was. In blind panic, she clawed at her belly, screaming and punching herself, trying to destroy the child growing inside her. Vincent calmly grabbed her wrists, his voice sickeningly gentle. Relax. I won't let you keep it. Their eyes met. A chill crept through Sable's entire body. Vincent gently brushed the hair from her face, speaking softly like a lover. You've suffered so much lately. You deserve a little vacation. I'm taking you to Emerald Island. Chapter 28. The sky above Emerald Island was clear and blue as glass. The helicopter hovered over the glittering ocean like a vulture circling its prey. Inside the cabin, Sable's hands were tied, the other end of the rope securely fastened to the chopper frame. She clung to the door frame for dear life, screaming her lungs out. Vincent, you can't do this to me. Please. But Vincent, wearing noise-canceling headphones like the cold-blooded bastard he was, ignored every desperate word. When Sable lunged forward to yank off his headset, one of his bodyguards kicked her hard, sending her flying backward. And then the chopper lifted off. For the next half hour, Vincent played a sick game with her life, dipping the chopper lower and lower until she was plunged headfirst into the icy sea, then pulling her back up at the last second. Over and over again, like she was nothing more than a yo-yo attached to a string. Each time she was submerged, the water swallowed her whole. Every breathless second must have felt like she was drowning for real. And each time she surfaced, gasping for air, she barely had a chance to cry for help before the chopper yanked her under again. Finally, after God knows how many tortuous rounds, one of Vincent's men spoke into the headset calmly. After half an hour, one of the bodyguards finally spoke up. Mr. Blackthorn, she miscarried. They hauled her back into the helicopter and dumped her onto the shore like discarded trash. Vincent stood over her lifeless body. This child was your payment for what you did to Andrea. But Sable suddenly started laughing, a bitter, hollow sound that chilled the air. Even barely breathing, Sable managed to laugh, her voice cracked and bitter. You're such a pathetic piece of shit, Vincent. You really think torturing me is going to make Andrea come back to you? She coughed and spat out the words like venom. She was right, you know. Out of all the messed up people in this story, you're the one who deserves to rot the most. You humiliated and abused her for years. And the second she walks away, you finally realize you love her? What a fool you are. Her chest heaved, voice cracking but relentless. You deserve every bit of hell that's coming for you. I hope you spend the rest of your miserable life alone and die a miserable death. Every word she spit out hit Vincent right where it hurt, but surprisingly, he didn't snap. Instead, his voice dropped to a cold, flat tone. You convinced me once to leave her all alone in this place. Now you'll know exactly how that feels. And with that, the helicopter roared back to life and lifted off, leaving Sable sprawled motionless on the shore. That was the last I heard about them. All of this came to me through whispers, rumors and bits and pieces from people close to Vincent. The moment I heard it, I chose to wipe it from my mind, like erasing a bad dream. He's absolutely unhinged, Damien muttered next to me, arms crossed, his jaw tight. With bloodlines like Vincent's, the Blackthorn family's going to collapse sooner or later. I thought that was the peak of Vincent's insanity. But I was wrong. In June, Damien finally proposed. The bracelet his mother once tried to give me, the one he kept tucked away all this time, was finally clasped around my wrist. You know, most people propose with a ring, Damien. Not with a family heirloom. I smirked as he fastened it carefully. He smirked, completely unbothered. This bracelet has been passed down for generations. I've witnessed every marriage in my family. I figured it would be better to bind you to me. But then, before I could tease him any further, he reached into his pocket again, and this time, pulled out a ring. Don't worry, I came prepared. My woman deserves everything she desires, he added with a grin, sliding it onto my finger. The wedding was set for early July. Damien handled every single detail with terrifying precision. From the custom invitations to the tiniest flower arrangements, he had it all meticulously planned. The day itself was perfect. The sun blazed high, casting a warm glow on the pristine church draped in blush pink mountain roses, my absolute favorite. The soft melody of a live piano filled the air like a gentle breeze, calming my nerves. With no father to give me away, Damien was waiting at the entrance. He offered me his arm and together, we walked toward the altar. Everything was going perfectly, until it wasn't. Just as we reached the moment to exchange rings, a voice suddenly rang out from the back of the church, slicing through the serenity like a blade. You can't marry him. Chapter 29. Every head in the church whipped toward the doors. There, disheveled and breathless, stood Vincent. My stomach dropped. Immediately, the security team stepped forward to block him, but his eyes never wavered from mine, intense and burning. Andrea, his voice cracked as he pushed forward, I've made things right for you. I made them pay for what they did. You can't marry him. He was talking about what he did to Sable. His version of revenge, as if that somehow erased everything he'd done to me. I stared at him, my voice steady. You can't undo the past, Vincent. Pain doesn't cancel out just because you want it to. This is my wedding and you're not welcome here. Leave. No, he shouted, his voice breaking. You love me. I know you still love me deep down. I stayed quiet, letting him spiral. I know I was an asshole. I messed up. I let my pride blind me, and I only realized after you left how much you meant to me. Please, Andrea, I swear I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Give me one more chance. If only these words had come years ago, maybe part of me might have softened back then. But not now. Not anymore. I don't love you, Vincent, I said firmly. Not anymore. It's too late. He shook his head in disbelief, like my words physically knocked the air out of him. No, you can't mean that. But I did. Every word. My heart belonged to someone else now. It belonged to the man standing next to me, holding my hand through all this chaos. Damien's jaw clenched, his patience snapping. Get him out of here. The security team moved again, but before they could reach him, Vincent suddenly pulled out a gun. The whole room gasped as he pressed the barrel against his own temple. If you walk away from me now, he said hoarsely, I'll blow my brains out. Right here, right now, in front of everyone. Are you insane? I screamed. He smiled a sick, hollow smile. See? You still care. I knew it. I shook my head. No, I just don't want you ruining my wedding with your blood. He staggered a little, as if my words physically knocked the wind out of him. So you really don't care about me anymore? Not even a little? I didn't answer. Instead, I turned to Damien. Let's continue. With a silent signal to the guards, Damien nodded at the priest. As we exchanged rings, Vincent stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. Damien cupped my face and kissed me, sealing our vows as cheers erupted through the crowd. That was the final blow for Vincent. His face contorted into something unrecognizable, and right as his fingers squeezed the trigger, one of Damien's bodyguards lunged forward and knocked the gun away. The shot fired into the ceiling instead, sending pieces of plaster raining down. Panic rippled through the church, but Damien's family and staff quickly calmed everyone. And just like that, the wedding resumed as if nothing had happened. Damien pulled me into his arms, shielding me, his voice calm in my ear. "Let's get out of here." We were ushered straight to the wedding car. As the doors slammed shut, I could finally breathe again. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. Vincent wasn't done. Through the rear window, I spotted Vincent barreling after us in his car like a man possessed. His headlights grew closer, dangerously weaving through traffic. "He's going to try to run us off the road." Panic gripped me. "Don't worry." Damien squeezed my hand, calm and firm. "I won't let anything happen to you." He started giving orders to the security convoy. But then, out of nowhere another car barreled into Vincent's from a side street. Sparks flew as both vehicles skidded toward the edge and plunged into the river. A loud explosion echoed behind us as flames and water shot into the air. Staring, breathless, I finally whispered, "Was that Sable? Was she in that car?" Damien nodded grimly. Rescue teams arrived quickly. Sable was pulled from the wreckage, already lifeless. Vincent was barely alive, slipping into a coma that lasted for days. In the end, he never woke up. The doctors declared him in a permanent vegetative state. And just like that, the past was finally buried. Damien and I, we moved forward, straight into our honeymoon. On our final stop, as we watched the sun sink behind the mountains, Damien pulled me close, his voice soft. "Do you remember you still owe me one wish?" he asked. I smiled against his chest. "I do. Have you made up your mind?" "Yes." He leaned down, his lips brushing against my ear as he whispered, "I wish Andrea lived a long, peaceful and happy life." Warmth bloomed in my chest, overflowing. I rose up on my toes and kissed him softly. The end, and that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, secondhand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, and keep the drama on the page.